Hello, good afternoon, and very warm welcome to all of you for this. So, GST session number 45. So, students, in this session, we are going to learn another important topic, that is annual return as well as final return. So, before I could go for this video session, so annual return as well as final return. So, we have discussed in the last session, that is matching reversal and reclaiming of input tax credit. So reversal of input tax rate, and also, so in this chapter we are going to discuss the annual return and the final return. What exactly is this annual return, and what is this final return, and who has to submit all this kind of returns. And meanwhile, we are going to discuss the provisions that are related to annual as well as final returns will also be learned. So let me explain the concept of annual as well as final return. So annual return is a return that is submitted annually, as the name itself suggests. Now let me read this out now. So GST-R9 is an annual return to be filled by all taxable registered taxpayers under GST except handful. It is an annual compilation of outward supplies, inward supplies, tax liability, and input tax rate availed during a financial year. It is due to be filled by 31st of December every year following the particular financial year. See, annual return, as the name itself very clearly tells all of us, that it's a return which is to be submitted by all the registered taxpayers based on the taxable supplies they have made and based on the input purchases what and all they have made in a particular period of time. So usually we could see 31st of December every year would be the last due date for furnishing and submitting all these details. Okay, next one. And then we are going to discuss a very important thing. So final return. So final return is nothing but, so this kind of returns would be filed by the people at the time of cancellation of the registration or surrender of the registration happens. So let me read this out now, and then we will be able to understand. The taxable person whose registration is cancelled or surrendered has to file a return in the form of GSTR10. This return is called as the final return. ಫೈನಲ್ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ್ದಾರ ಒಂದು ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ GST ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅವರೇ ಸರೆಂಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ GSTR ಫಾರ್ಮ್ 10 ನಲ್ಲೇ ಅವರು ಫೈಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅಗೇನ್ this final return will also be uploaded using the common portal which is incorporated and given by the respective states, or we can say it is introduced by the central government according to GST Act. So we have to submit the last return of the business concern. So next one, the final return for a descendant is an income tax return that has been filed for an individual in the year of the taxpayer's death. So taxpayers who die in any year must have one final tax return submitted to the IRS on their behalf to account for any income or transfers received in that year. Today, so a final return has to be filed by the person if he has been died. ಅವನದು ಒಂದು ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಟಿವ್ ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಹೆಲ್ಪರ್ಸ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು, they can file the taxpayers returns. So taxpayers definitely who die in any year so must have one final tax return submitted to the IRS on their behalf account. So on account ಪರವಾಗಿ ಅವನ್ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಅವನ್ ಬೇರೆ ಒಂದು ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಸೊ he or she has to furnish the final return in GSTR10 ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. So this is about the final return ಅಂತ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So annual return is nothing but the return has to be filed by every registered taxpayer based on the sales and the services based on the purchases made by him in a particular period of time. So annual returns would be filed on 31st of December every year ಅಂತ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. Next, so these are the important thing that we all need to understand when we talk about the concept of annual return and final return. So that's all for the class of today. We had only two important things, that is annual return and so final return. Annual return, of course, the name itself tells that. So every year, so we have to submit by 31st of December every person. Final return so has to be filed only once. So this to be filed only when there is a cancellation of registration or surrender ಆದರೆ so ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ this final return would be filed by the representative or by the other persons. So thank you everyone for looking at the videos. When we come out in the next videos, we are going to discuss some other